Hello and welcome to Primetime Sunday. This is Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jai and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In commemoration of Black History Month, we continue with Liberian history. This time we're going to turn our attention to the development policies of our presidents, from Joseph Jenkins Roberts to George Manneh Weah. What are being their development policies? My guest is Dr. George Klay Kieh. He's a professor of political science from Southern Texas University. Dr. Kieh, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you, Dennis, and good afternoon. Glad to be here.
And by the way, Dr. Kieh is joining us on the phone from Texas, where there has been some serious climate issue, some weather conditions, but those are kind of resolved now. But we have Dr. Kieh on the phone, and we're going to go into our topic for today. We want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. We are studying Liberian history because we say Black history. Liberian history is Black history. And we've had Dr. Kieh for 3 Sundays now. This is the third one. In the first one, we looked at the dominant or the King Kong presidency. The second time we had Dr. Kieh, we talked about the centralized state. Today, we are going to talk about the development policies of our presidents, and that's going to span a number of years. Again, we ask you for that usual favor to share the show, invite someone, and let's talk about Liberia. Our goal here at Focus on Liberia is to elevate, to educate, and promote all things Liberia. Dr. Kieh, it's been a wonderful time. We are almost nearing the conclusion of our series on Liberian history, from the dominant presidency to this centralized state. What's your feel about what we've done so far?
Well, I've been very pleased with the discussion, and again, thanks to you and your colleagues, not just only for the invitation, but for such an innovative idea of providing a platform for the discussion of matters pertaining to our country. It's been very good discussions. I've learned a lot from it, including benefiting from the comments that your viewers from around the world have sent. I can't believe that we're almost at an end, but I'm looking forward to this afternoon's discussion as well.
Thank you. And what we intend to do is to even give a bonus to our listeners by having one more lecture on we are still working on the details to do something on land, the Liberian boundaries and land issues. That's a big topic, so we are working on that, and that will be a bonus to our listeners. Again, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Focus on Liberia. Let's get this started. Dr. Kieh, we are talking about development policies of our presidents, and give us a gist of what development policies are and what's the intent. We have development in there, but let us know, why do presidents put forward development policies, and what are those development policies by way of definition?
Well, I would say a development policy is basically a plan that embodies the focus that a government wants to place on various aspects of the country. And I'm using various aspects very broadly because development spans the culture, the economic, the social, the political. So it's a multidimensional phenomenon, but it is a plan that a government puts forth covering various aspects of its society. But the way the term is used, the emphasis tends to be on the socio-economic aspects of development. And so that plan then will embody what the government's ideas are about improving the situations in those various aspects and the ways in which the government is then planning to go about doing that. So you got both you got various phases so that the plan gets formulated, and then of course the last phase is that the plan then gets implemented. In between formulation and implementation, of course, you have the mobilization of resources and developing buy-in and all of that. But those will be the two major places I would say. So the plan gets developed, embodying what the government believes are the key aspects of the society that need to be addressed, and then of course the plan gets implemented.
So how are those policies derived?
What the policies are supposed to be derived depending on what the government's approach to development is. One way is if the development plan is bottom up, then of course the government will involve various stakeholders in developing the plan. On the other hand, if it's top to bottom, then the tendency is for the government to basically develop the plan and basically present it to its citizens and say, well, this is the plan we want to implement. So it depends on the government's orientation.
Okay. And how are they normally monitored, evaluated, or reviewed, for the lack of a better word?
Well, the plan itself is supposed to include all of that. First, the plan is supposed to lay out how long it is for. So there's got to be a time period. You can have a 4-year development plan. You can have a 5-year development plan. In the case of Liberia, one of the plans we're going to discuss tonight, which is Liberia Rising Vision 2030, which was a development plan profiled by the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf administration. That's a development plan that covers 18 years, from 2012 to 2030. So it depends on how long the government wants to make that plan, how much time it wants to attach to it, and then of course, various dimensions have to also be laid out. To your point about how the plan is going to be monitored, how is it going to be evaluated, how feedback will be received and incorporated into the plan, how adjustments will be made, and all of that. So all of those things have to be part of the plan as well.
So in the context of Liberia, what have been the medium through which, or the media through which these development plans have been executed, or letting the people know about them and how they are carried out?
Well, since the plans, as we discussed before, that since development itself, I mean, even we just focus on the socio-economic aspect of it, since that involves a lot of government agencies, in our own historical experience, those agencies have then played a key role in the implementation of the plan. Of course, since the Tubman administration, because it was President Tubman that created what was then called the Planning and Economic Affairs Office, which President Tubman then elevated to a ministry in 1971, the Ministry of Planning and Economic Affairs. That has been the Liberian government's main development planning, monitoring, assessment agency. And then when it comes to implementation, of course, planning has been involved, the Ministry of Agriculture, the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Health, all of the major line ministries that have to do with social and economic development are then sort of involved in the implementation aspect.
Last question before we go into those development policies. How have citizens been able to evaluate, or let me put it this way. Normally, when we are talking about our presidents, have citizens been able to evaluate those presidents based on their development plans or their development policies, their development agenda? From your experience, what has been...
Go ahead.
Yeah, what has been the way citizens have evaluated, or do citizens really care about evaluating these policies overall?
Well, some do, and some... Well, I would say all of the citizens do, because we all know development impacts all of us. But some citizens have been more involved than others in assessing the impact of their development plans and in speaking out in a more structured way. The mass of people who consider ordinary Liberians, while they might not voice their assessment in a structured way, they do voice that the assessment in the ways in which they express how their material conditions are. So I would say that's the best measure of the assessment of any development plan. If the majority of our people are complaining that their material conditions are not improving, I mean that's the best measure.
Right. Because in my experience, anytime we are comparing presidents, I don't know if we even taken into consideration the policies that they put forward, or we just say, oh, this president did this, this president built roads, or this president built, the schools. What I'm wondering here is, to what extent do we even know that whether these presidents have really their policies have made impact, or we are evaluating this president based on their policies, or just based on how we feel?
Well, I think it's based on how we feel. I mean, many of us don't rather go back to the development plan, see what they say, and then compare them to what the realities are. So it's mainly personal reactions based on what our personal circumstances are.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Focus on Liberia. My guest is Dr. George Klay Kieh. He's the professor of political science at Southern Texas University. He's joining us on the phone. We are discussing the development policies of Liberia's presidents. We're going to start all the way back. So, Dr. Kieh, let's get this going on. These development policies going all the way back. Where do we start from?
Well, anyway, we start from J.J. Roberts, which I would say would be a good starting point. If we start from Roberts in 1847, Liberia developed what I refer to as an autonomous capitalist development plan. And what that meant was that from Roberts to all of the subsequent administrations were basically committed to, pursuing a capitalist path to development, which is based, of course, on private ownership of the means of production, and businesses basically being the engine of national development. Now, what made that autonomous was that, given the historical experiences of the Africans who were repatriated from the United States to Liberia, their development orientation was that they were going to be the drivers of capitalism in Liberia, in the sense that they were going to organize businesses, and those businesses then were going to be the engines of the economy. Something we discussed, I believe, in either the first or second session we had. So the logic behind autonomous capitalist development is that economic development will be led by indigenous or local private business people. So you develop a business class or an entrepreneur class. That class organizes businesses, and those businesses then serve as the engine of the economy. So that was the logic of autonomous capitalist development, and Liberia pursued that with some degree of success until about 1869, when there was stiff competition from various European firms, and a number of those Liberian businesses then began to collapse. But then the unfortunate thing was that we had a major political conflict in 1870. President Roy, as you know, he got elected in 1869, which represented a major power shift. And we're not just only from the two dominant political parties, but then to the Truist Party, as well as a shift in power from the more light-skinned sections of the repatriated African stock to the more dark-skinned one. So that power shift was mediated by a lot of factors, skin pigmentation, party orientation, all of that. And that led to Ross' death under mysterious circumstances. And so from that point on, the government really never came up with strategies to address the competition from European firms. So what happened then, unfortunately, was the government became the major employer, and from from Robert's second term all the way to Edwin J. Barclay, no major effort was really made to revive that autonomous capitalist development plan. And so by the time Tubman was elected in 1944 and became president, he made a decision that the engine from Liberia's development was going to come from the outside. So he shifted from autonomous capitalist development to a development strategy that is more externally driven. And that was the impetus for his formulation and implementation of the open door policy.
And before we get to the open door policy, most of us heard of, let's go back to this autonomous capitalist development. So we had these businesses. Let's talk about how really before those businesses started collapsing. How was it? What was the impact?
Well, they were very successful. I mean, there was a great degree of success. I mean, you know, you had Liberian businesses in the agricultural sector, in the you know, various sectors, shipping and all of those areas. And those Liberian businesses, in fact, were carving up a space for themselves in the evolving global economic system. In fact, they were exporting goods to various parts of the world. So I would say, on balance, they were quite successful. I mean, that entrepreneurial spirit was quite successful, and I will argue that, you know, if we have gone down that pathway and strengthened and revived it, I mean, we could have had a vibrant Liberian entrepreneur class. But again, as I said, because you know, the government did not really intervene to help those trucking businesses, because those Liberian businesses were facing European firms that were more capitalized, that were much larger. So some form of government intervention, I would argue, was needed to help those Liberian businesses. And that wouldn't have been unusual for us. The United States, Japan, and a number of other countries, even countries that now we call developed countries, their governments intervene from time to time to help domestic businesses. So that wouldn't have been peculiar to Liberia. But we failed to do that. And so that strategy not only just collapsed, but the whole idea of Liberia entrepreneurship, I think, suffered a major blow.
I wonder it happened like that, or it was something that was well thought of. Because if you actually put a little bit of time into it, you will look at contingencies, you will look at what if scenarios, and be able to put together a plan to counteract what may come. What would you say? You know, if there were much thought put into it.
Well, I would say that once government became the new and largest source of employment, and people felt comfortable with government jobs that really did not involve risk-taking, personal risk-taking, I believe people got much more comfortable, and that's why control of the government then became a life and death battle, as we saw with the case of President Roy, and it has continued to be a life and death battle throughout our history, and because you know that's why our elections tend to be very contentious, you know, because control of the state does not only mean control of political power, it also means control of economic power as well.
Yeah. So what will you put as the timeline or the actual, was it after Roy that it really collapsed, or did it continue after?
Yeah. After Roy, things started really going downhill. Yeah.
Because someone, when I was reading, someone said, well, the first, even though this was the first republic, but at least the first 100 years when the repatriated or settlers were ruling, things were relatively okay until when their children took over. Will you say that's how things started getting more government control?
Well, no, I would say that's kind of about, if I go back to that 1869 timeline. I mean, once we did not come up with contingency plans, as you describe it, to deal with the extended competition, meaning from European firms. And people saw the government as the new avenue for employment. I mean, that was basically it. I mean, that was that because prior to that time, people were not really drawn to government service. If they were, it was mainly because they were really interested in providing service. People were more interested in being entrepreneurial, being involved in business, because that was the dominant mindset during that time. And then once the businesses collapsed, as I said, and the contingency plan was not developed, and people felt comfortable working for the government, then there were no incentives then to return to that entrepreneurial spirit. Although I may add that there were still pockets of Liberians who still had an entrepreneurial spirit, but it was not at the kind of a collective level that we experienced from the founding of the country up to that point.
Will you also say that this may have been the reason why we saw like private people or government renting places from private people? Is it because the country was started on that level of autonomous capitalist development? So capitalists or entrepreneurs were kind of government were renting from them, basically. Is that where it started?
Well, I even started before that. So I mean, going to real estate, yeah. I mean, there were people invested in the real estate business. People invested in farms, although the question of how they acquired the land, all of that stuff, that's another discussion for another time. But people invested in farms, planted rubber, coffee, cocoa, and all of that stuff. And then later on, of course, Tommy Bernard came and started a large transportation company called Kieh that was very, very prosperous for many years. Then Steve Chobot came along and started a much rather group of companies. We had Leroy Francis and his involvement in the beverage and other kinds of industries. So there were pockets of Liberian entrepreneurship here and there. But I would say that after 1869 and particularly after 1944, there was a shift in that mindset away from Liberian entrepreneurs being the drivers of socioeconomic development to this reliance on foreign investment.
And so that's a good. Dr. Kieh, I see here. Greetings, say happy birthday, Dr. Kieh. Is today your birthday?
My birthday is on Tuesday. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
That's in mind. All right. That takes us to the next one, which is the open door policy you just mentioned. From what I read, open door policy did not start with President Tubman.
Well, yeah, he formalized it. I mean, that's true. He's credited for it because he really developed what one would call a coherent policy. The ideas about open door were floated around before him, but he was able to really develop a coherent policy.
And what was that all about?
Well, the thrust of the policy basically was to provide incentives to foreign businesses building on the Firestone model, and that's why the point is made that the idea of open door preceded President Tubman, because Firestone came before the open door policy. So he built on that idea because Firestone started in 1926. So President Tubman built on that idea of the Liberian government providing incentives to foreign businesses to come and invest in Liberia as the pathway to economic development.
And this was go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I'm going to say that which represented a complete shift away from the focus on economic development being driven by a Liberian entrepreneurial class to now this reliance on foreign businesses. And a lot of business-minded Liberians did not really like that shift.
And this open door policy was not was not unique to Liberia, or this idea did not come from Liberia. It was all over the place. You know, it was not something that Liberia invented, basically.
No, I mean, it wasn't. I mean, opening the door to foreign investment is part and parcel of the capitalist development strategy. So yeah, I mean, Tubman did not invent the idea. He just basically, develop it as a policy pathway and apply it to the Liberian experience.
Some regard him as the father of modern Liberia. Let's evaluate his open door policy. What was the impact?
Well, I mean, I think we can look at the impact at two levels. At one level, and this is where some of us disagree with a lot of development economists, because if you just look at the growth of the economy and say, oh, the Liberian economy grew under Tubman during the first 10 years of the open door policy, which was true, Liberia had the second highest rate of economic growth next to Japan. I mean, that's good, but economic growth does not really tell you how people's material conditions are improving in terms of education and jobs and healthcare and housing and public transportation. So the economic growth rate number can be very deceiving. But if you look at that, and that what matters for you in terms of your analytical orientation, yes, you may call it a success. But if you look at the success of any development policy in terms of how it improves the material conditions of ordinary people, then I would say no, it was not a success. And that's why in the mid-1960s, a group of economists led by American Robert Klay wrote a very famous book called Growth Without Development. That the Liberian economy grew astronomically, but it did not translate into changing the material conditions of ordinary Liberians. And I agree with that assessment.
Yeah, I spoke with development economist Samuel Y. Johnson and say, well, development is relative, and the definition for development changes over time. So at a time of Tubman, that was development, but we can leave that for another topic. Let's go to our next development policy under President Tubman, and there were a couple of them: higher total involvement for higher heights, man to mattress, farm to market road, etc.
Yeah.
What was the landscape at that time that prompted President Tubman to institute these policies?
Well, it's another good question. As we all know, President Tubman was President Tubman's vice president for 19 years. And prior to being vice president, he had worked at various levels of the government, including in the Ministry of Finance. He was a member of the House of Representatives. So he had been around government for a while. And he saw 27 years of President Tubman's rule. He saw how the economy grew thanks to the exploitation of our iron ore, rubber, and other natural resources. But he was also mindful of the fact, as I said in my previous comment, that the material conditions of ordinary Liberians had not improved. So that was the context in which he came up with his development policies. And the total involvement aspect of it was basically his argument that development in Liberia could not take place unless all Liberians were mobilized, and we had a singular commitment to into improving the conditions of the country. So I would say the total involvement policy was the foundational pillar of President Tubman's development policies, including mattress and higher height and farm to market roads.
Let's talk about impact. Many people, the first time I spoke with you gave President Tubman some high marks.
I gave him high marks too. I'll give him high marks, and it's coming from someone who was part of the progressive movement that staunchly opposed him. But in the interest of objectivity, I'll give him high marks.
So what was the impact that is giving rise to the high marks?
Well, I mean, you know, Frank Rose got bailed. We saw basically some serious steps towards food sufficiency and food security through the various agriculture projects. In fact, we had pilot project, we had a Bong agriculture project, the Nima agriculture project, the Grand Kieh agriculture project. So there was some movement in that direction in the area of agriculture and food security. You know, there was some movement towards at least creating a work culture based on hard work. And then I will also add his Liberianization policy, which started off very well, but then it faltered. So I mean, I will give you high marks, but again, if there's one criticism I will have of President Talbot, which was actually a major contributing factor to the opposition to him, was that these policies were not sustained. I mean, they started, they made some impact, but then he did not take them to a logical conclusion, because I would say that as president, he was conflicted. Conflicted in the sense that on the one hand, and I'm saying this since I had a real privilege, you know, as a member of the progressive movement, particularly the student movement, to have met with President Talbot a number of times. I mean, the first time as a high school student. So I really had the opportunity to really sit down with him and to get some sense of where he was taking the country. And when you spoke to him, you really had a good sense that he had a commitment to developing Liberia. But then unfortunately, he was unwilling to deal with the forces that were opposed to developing the country. And in the end, he basically gave in to those forces. I mean, so that's where the problem was. I mean, if he had made a determination to say, well, look, this old ruling oligarchy, you're not going to stay in the way of the kinds of changes I want to make in this country, political and otherwise, and we're going to take Liberia in a different direction. I believe he clearly completed a resounding record of success, but you know, his inability to be without all three party oligarchy, I believe, was what that doomed both his vision for Liberia, as well as his regime and the True Party itself finally in the end.
Let's go to next. I don't want to skip President Doe. So I will say for President Doe, what was the development policy? Will we consider Green Revolution, for example, has his development policy?
Well, yeah, you know, he talked about Green Revolution, but I mean that really didn't make significant impact. You know, you talk about Green Revolution. I mean, you know, the government under President Doe had the same kind of a 5-year development plan. So we had some roads built, we had some edifices built. So again, you made the point that it depends on what your definition of development is. If the definition is in physical structures, then yeah, I mean, you know, you made some efforts to build some physical structure.
But was there a policy?
Go ahead.
Was there a policy?
Well, I mean, not one that one could really identify, unlike the other administrations. I mean, there was not a pronounced development policy that was sort of discernible to me. So I mean, he didn't. So all there was just the usual 5-year Liberian government. I mean, 5-year development plan that the Ministry of Planning worked on. Not just during the Doe administration, but during previous administrations.
And how is so if you look at that, you're saying he probably did something, but it was not on paper. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, yeah, I mean, he had some ideas, but I mean, those ideas were not put on paper. I mean, unlike say Todmont Taylor Vision 2020 or Salih's Vision 2030 or Weir's Propo Agenda for Development. I mean, yeah, I mean, you can really locate a document that you could really say, well, this is, here is a policy document that clearly articulates the dual regime's administration's vision for development in Liberia. The closest we could come to that would basically have been would be the five-year development plan, which I would argue was not peculiar to do. I mean, every other Liberian administration basically had some 4 or 5 year development plan. But in addition to that, they were able to package that, craft that into a sort of a broader development plan.
And what I listened to is that these development plans, starting with President Tobert, were they slogans or some documents that we can locate even today?
Well, yeah, we can find the documents. I mean, no, they're there. They can be found. Yeah, we can find them. In fact, the late Wilson Sankara-Wolo wrote a book called Humanistic Capitalism, which would be a good piece to read, because that will give you a sense of President Tobert's whole development ideology. Because we all know, development has to have an ideology. Meaning it has to have a mindset. It has to have an orientation. And if you read Sankara-Wolo's book, it will give you a sense of what President Tobert's thinking was. Briefly, what President Tobert's approach to development was that he realized that capitalism has its shortcomings, and that what capitalism really needed was a kind of a human phase, was to humanize capitalism. And that's what he called humanistic capitalism as his development philosophy. And that's what drove the total involvement, Macho Matras, Farm to Market Road, and all of those. So those policies were outcomes of President Tobert's development ideology or development orientation, which was rooted in humanistic capitalism. Yeah, so we can you can find those documents.
Let's go to President Taylor. What we got?
Vision 2020.
What was this all about, and how can we evaluate it today?
Well, President Taylor said that the ultimate purpose of Vision 2020 was to make Liberia, quote unquote, the Hong Kong of Africa. Now, if you visited Hong Kong or you're familiar with Hong Kong, you know that Hong Kong is a major economic hub, a major economic center in a global economy. So if we translate that, what President Taylor was saying, that he was going to make Liberia an economic giant, and what the Vision 2020 contained in terms of its objectives is not really much different from President Tobert's and President Salih's and President Weir. The verbiage is different, but the goals are all the same. I mean, tackling poverty, empowering Liberians economically, investing in human capital, that would be education and training, health care, building a physical infrastructure, or sanitation, access to clean drinking water, all of those things. So I mean, those were the key economic and social dimensions of Vision 2020, as and not to look ahead, as they are still aware of Vision 2030 and they are of the Propo agenda. So what I'm suggesting is that the key objectives, the key development objectives for all these administrations were basically the same. I mean, the words were, the verbiage were different, and they called the plans different names, but same goals.
But there are serious steps taken on the part of President Taylor to actually achieve this vision.
Unfortunately not, no. Unfortunately not.
And how was that received by Liberians and development partners?
Well, I mean, again, as you know, It depends on what I mean. President Taylor, any other Liberian president, or any leader elsewhere, it depends on where one stands. I mean, the people who support Taylor clearly will rationalize the fact that, oh, well, he couldn't, Vision 2020 could not be implemented because the country was unstable, and we saw an example of that. Learn and Bodell started a war. So, you know, there was no way in which the Taylor administration was concentrated on development. The international community led by the U.S. was hostile to the Taylor administration, so it was difficult for it to function. So that's one. I mean, that's the rationalization you get from the supporters of the Taylor regime as to why Vision 2020 was not implemented.
And Dr. Kieh, let's starting with open door policy to Vision 2020. Do we hear of any serious monitoring, evaluation of these visions? Or, you know, maybe in your first 3 years, you say, okay, let's review whether what we target, whether things are working, or if we need to combine few things, tweak few things here and there. Has there been any time in our history that we sit down and kind of evaluate, monitor, and review what we're doing?
Well, the Ministry of Planning, I think, was supposed to be doing that. I mean, the Ministry, every year, the Ministry of Planning, at least up to 1988, used to publish a document called the Economic Survey of Liberia, which was basically a review of economic trends, including, if one would argue or one would suggest progress that were made in the various development plans. So that was the, but that was before the war. If we go to the Taylor and the Salif regime, but let's leave Taylor since Vision 2020 right now got implemented for whatever reason. Let's go to President Salif talking about monitoring. Under President Salif, one of the major problems was that the vision itself was externally driven. I mean, President Salif relied very heavily on, particularly on global international economic institutions, like the IMF and the World Bank, as the driver of Liberia's development plans and development initiatives. So those were the organizations that did the assessment mainly. I mean, in conjunction with the appropriate Liberian government agencies. So yeah, I mean, the World Bank and the IMF and UNDP, they all have assessments on those various development initiatives that the Salif regime undertook. So in terms of assessment, yes, those documents are available. But again, assessment driven heavily by external forces.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest problem in the Salif administration, is like she outsourced everything to external bodies. But let's look at now the Salif Vision 2030. I think she had a couple, but let's start with Vision 2030.
Well, Vision 2030 embodied all of the other ones she had. I mean, you know, there was the poverty reduction strategy, the agenda for transformation. There were so many of them. But all of those are embodied in Vision. Vision 2030 is a sort of a super development plan that the Salif government put forward in 2012. And it's an 18-year development plan that has as its major objective making Liberia a middle-income country by the year 2030.
And the evaluation was of this and the assessment. Okay, let me go back like this. Evaluate this for me. How was it?
Well, if you look at the material conditions of ordinary Liberians from 2012 to 2018, when President Salif left, which was right in her second term, I mean, the empirical evidence is available. The material conditions of Liberians did not really improve tremendously. So, I mean, even if you look at even the United Nations itself, if you look at the United Nations Human Development Index, Liberia was always in the lowest tier throughout the Salif administration, despite all of the international involvement, despite all of the development assistance and whatnot. The material conditions of ordinary Liberians did not improve. And this is not a political assessment, it's an empirical assessment because the data are all available.
And Dr. Kieh, if you look at Tubman, there was a mindset, there was this governing philosophy. Same with Turbot. Even President Doe, his idea of sports of green revolution could tell you what he was thinking or where he wanted the country to go. What would you say was the governing philosophy of President Salif that was driving her agenda?
Well, President Salif, we should keep in mind, is a creature of the development orientation of the international financial institutions. And and putting that in that context, I would say her development philosophy in Liberia was is sort of a neoliberal development philosophy, which essentially is that you minimize the role of the government and you allow, private enterprises, in this case, foreign multinational corporations, to drive economic development. And we saw that clearly in her policy. I mean, that's why she leased a lot of land. I mean, under President Sadiq, about 33% of Liberia's territory was leased to various multinational corporations in the oil palm industry and a number of areas, in Kieh, in Sino, and different areas, giving them land leases for 60, 65 years, thousands of acres of land and all of that stuff. So her development mindset was essentially, again, externally based. This belief basically that, private enterprise and, in her case, foreign-based multinational corporations will be the major drivers of development in Liberia, and the Liberian government basically had no role to play in that effort.
Right. And what was that? I'm looking back and I'm saying, wait a minute. Did she have faith in the Liberian people that they could do the job, or what was this all about? Take, for instance, even the educational system was outsourced to some bridge group. Yeah. What was that all about? Was it that Liberians couldn't do it, or she just believed that, okay, I'm in good book with the international community, and all I have to do is to just make myself look good, and I don't care about the Liberian people? I mean, I'm being very harsh here.
Well, I don't want to be harsh on her, say she did not care, but I mean, I would say that she really has this mindset of what is external is better, and that's a tragedy. Right. And I will make the argument she had the opportunity as president of Liberia for 12 years to turn things around, to have invested in education. When the time came to invest in education, as you say correctly, she also bad. Why didn't she get government to invest money to train teachers? Why did she invest money in building schools? So she had 12 years to have done that. But again, when your orientation towards development is driven by the fact that the IMF and the World Bank and other private, including private organizations, they know better, then it's very, very difficult for you to see the government itself as having a major role in development.
And look at you talk about the planning ministry that was responsible for this assessment, the planning, the evaluation, the monitoring. But that was merged with the Ministry of Finance. And since then, I don't know how that function is being carried out.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree with that decision of putting finance and planning in the same area. What the problem is, because is the latter part of your question, Dennis, which is, all right, you merge planning and finance. What is coming from the planning side of finance? I haven't seen much from that side.
And this was not an idea that came from her. Again, it came from outside.
No, that's correct. That's correct. I mean, when during my various work with the Governance Commission of Liberia and some of the conversations that I was part of and some of the projects that I work on, I mean, there were some of us that were very resistant to this externally determined impulse development template on Liberia. Yeah, I mean, the whole idea of restructuring the government was not really dictated by internal realities. They were all externally driven. Even restructuring our police force, was all externally driven. Restructuring our military was externally driven. Now, I'm not suggesting that Liberia should not get help from abroad. I mean, you can. But if somebody is going to come to help you, you got to tell the president what is it that you need help for. I mean, but it was very strange, President Salif, that somebody is going to come to help you, and then the president said, okay, I know what you need. You need the help in so area, and I'm going to control the help that I give you, which is a strange way of rendering assistance. And there was very little resistance with the imposition of this external template. Again, it was because she was a firm believer in what, for lack of a better term, this false superiority of external institutions, whether it was the World Bank or the IMF. And the argument some of us made is that name me one developing country that the IMF and the World Bank took out of poverty and took the development. That's not a single case.
No.
And that was the strange thing. I mean, you put in so much trust. The IMF and the World Bank are basically designed to create an environment in which businesses can go make a whole lot of profit, take that profit and basically move on. The IMF and the World Bank are not really in the business of ensuring that our people have clean drinking water, education, healthcare, and all of that stuff. In fact, the World Bank, the whole business of outsourcing our educational system to preach was a World Bank idea, because the World Bank believed that we should privatize education.
Again, and Dr. Kieh, there was many things that Liberians care about for a long time. For example, the constitutional review. President Salif set that up. There were cries about Liberian history project, that we need our Liberian history. There's a lot of things going on here. She set that up. There was this whole cry about decentralization. She set that up. National symbols reviewed. These were things that Liberians have been crying for years. She set that up. Dual citizenship, we've been crying. That was also under her. But again, the mindset you talk about, that everything foreign is better. So these things that Liberians cried about and cared about, she started and just dashed them along the way. But then she was implementing external people projects.
Yeah. I think externally driven projects that in the end, after 12 years, never really benefited ordinary Liberians.
And that leads us to the pro-poll. What PAPD of President George Weah, how is it different from the rest of the policy, and how is it going so far?
It's really not much different, because if you read the preface to the pro-poll agenda for development, it clearly says that it builds on Vision 2030. And that's why I said before in my previous comments that Vision 2020 on Taylor, Vision 2030 on Salif, the pro-poll agenda for development on President Weah, farm to market role, total involvement, higher heights. All of those policies have the same objectives. They just have different names and written in different verbiage. So if you look at the pro-poll agenda for development, it has the same stuff. Investment in human capital, education, addressing the issues of poverty, food security, all of that. And those are all great ideas. I have no argument with those ideas. They are all wonderful ideas. Where my problem lies, and I'm sure the problem of most Liberians lies, is implementation. So it's not the absence of ideas. It's the lack of the will, political or otherwise, to implement those ideas. If we can invest in education, if we can give our people clean drinking water and accessible sanitation, if we can help reduce poverty, empower our people economically, but giving them access to education, giving our children world-class education, building our infrastructure, all that stuff, that would be great. Then we'll let it become a middle-income country and even go beyond that. So it's the implementation problem, and you all learned that very well, Dennis, again, during the Salif administration. Proliferation of ideas, but the lack of implementation. So I have not really seen over the past 3 years, I really have not seen emerging signs that indicate that the material conditions of ordinary Liberians are improving. Now, one can make an argument and say, well, 3 years is not a long time enough. Let's wait. But if we set that argument and say, in a preliminary way, at least if we look at the first 3 years of the Weah administration, I'm not seeing evidence of the improvement in material conditions of ordinary Liberians. Certainly not in the era of education, not in the era of healthcare, not in the era of jobs, not in the era of poverty reduction, not in the era of food security.
But are you seeing consistent steps in actually delivering on the pro-poor agenda?
No.
Why is that?
Well, I believe it's the same problem that has bedeviled previous administration. I would say, with the exception of few. And I've forgotten there was an excellent article in one of the local newspapers at home. Is it the Dawn or the Observer? And I've really forgotten now. But it was an excellent article that when the pro-poor agenda for development was launched, that made the argument that if the agenda is not implemented, it will be like all previous development plans, basically gathering dust on the shelves of the various agencies where they were developed. And I believe that concern is an apt description of the challenge we have faced. Great development ideas, lack of implementation. So we implementing a development plan requires a number of concrete steps, and we need to really take those concrete steps. And we discussed one of those last week in our session, but in a different context. We got to develop a mindset at the level of politicians and at the level of ordinary Liberians. And that mindset has to be that we got to put the interests of Liberia first, before ours. If we don't do that, then it doesn't matter what we call the development plan. It doesn't matter what it contains. It's gonna be cyclical. We're gonna keep going in these cycles, and nothing significant is really gonna happen for ordinary Liberians, because it's the mindset of putting self before Liberia that has hampered our efforts in the past, and that continues to hamper our efforts. So we got to put the country first.
But Dr. Kieh, where should this push come from? Because one administration after the other, we see that the development plan is collecting dust somewhere, it's not being assessed, monitored, or things are not happening. I saw citizens on the president's counter tour asking him for cutlasses. I saw the president himself crying about presidential palace, as if a palace is part of the PAPD. But where should the push come from to get our government to deliver what they promise in their development policy?
Well, the push got to come from us. If we really don't make the push, it's not really going to happen. We have to make the push, because every country's citizens, they get the government they deserve. So if you want to push your government, in our case as Liberians, if we want to push our government in a particular direction of implementing the pro-poor agenda so that the material conditions of ordinary Liberians are improved, we gotta make that push collectively. And by making that push, even among the Liberian people themselves, is going to require transcending ethnic, political, and all the other lines, and saying, you know what, this is in the interest of our country, and we got to put our country first, because if Liberia is developed, all of us will benefit from it. And so if we don't develop that mindset and we don't make that push as Liberians beyond all of these cleavages, then much is really not going to happen. And as I've said over and over, building houses in Liberia with hard fences, with barbed wire and 20-foot wall and electric, that's not going to save us for anything, because in the case that, God forbid, things go bad, the mama who is cooking our food and cleaning our house, and the John who is driving our cars, whose material conditions are terrible, who will treat as things rather as human beings, they will be the first to turn on us.
Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, this is Focus on Liberia. We are discussing the development policies of our presidents, from Joseph Jenkins Roberts to George Bakube Weah. My guest is Dr. George Klay Kieh. We take a short break. There was a tragedy that in Monrovia, where an entire family died from what we believe to be carbon monoxide poisoning. And the story is very, very tragic. You see the graduate Nancy Miller. You see her photo. She and 7 others, the total of 8 persons, died in a very tragic way. You see Nancy there with her mom, Ya Miller, who also died in the accident. We also see Nancy there in the picture with her only daughter, Favor. She also died. And there were others who died. And so the family is very, very sad at this time. They are launching a GoFundMe, family tragedy in need of funds for funeral. And we're going to put that GoFundMe link in the show there. We are encouraging all our listeners and even those who will listen and watch this video later to donate to this fund drive, to this GoFundMe. It's very, very tragic. Nancy graduated from the University of Liberia, and during their celebration, we watched her speech on Facebook. And when they went to bed that night, everyone in the household perished. It's very, very sad. And the family are asked that for a GoFundMe, and they are saying, please donate anything you have. We'll post the link. Please click on it. It's a very, very sad situation. Again, you see Nancy there with her family graduating, and this really happened. So our hearts and prayers go to the bereaved family, and this family, including the widow of Honorable J. Nambishlaw, Kieh Slaw. This is her aunt and her cousin and the rest of the family members who died in this incident. And so we are encouraging all of you to please make your donation and identify with the bereaved family. We're going to be posting the link in the below there in this show. Please do something and let us identify with this family. Dr. Kieh, we want to go to our viewers' comments at this time.
Okay.
The first comment here is from Dave Jar. He says, how did the relationship between the Liberian businesses or business people hinder or enhance the business climate? Consider how government officials constantly extort from businesses.
Well, the problem of extortion was and continue to be a major problem. So I mean that hinders entrepreneurship, because if you go to register a business or you go for some transaction pertaining to your business and everybody wants to extort you, of course that is quite discouraging. So extortion and all of the various fraudulent acts that public servants at various levels are involved in dealing with various businesses clearly have had and continue to have a negative impact on developing that kind of a business climate, because it adds very unnecessary overhead costs to those business ventures themselves. And then among the business people themselves, one of the major reasons why the Liberianization policy that President Trump enunciated, one of the major reasons why it failed, and it goes back to one of the earlier points we discussed about the lack of patriotism and the lack of commitment to Liberia. Under the Liberianization policy, certain businesses were set aside for only Liberians, business people to go into. And you have some Liberians who are fronting for non-Liberian business people. So, I mean, it just undermines the entire policy. But again, it goes back to the larger mindset of putting self before country. And that is just an unfortunate, enduring feature of our Liberian orientation. The me, I, and my over us. Just basically continues to keep our country in the state in which it is.
And Dave also said, what are your thoughts on the seemingly lack of clear delineation between government and private businesses? Can we ensure true transparency and regulations when leading government officials are deeply connected to leading businesses or business leaders?
Well, that's another excellent point. We don't have appropriate regulations, and even if we do, they're not implemented because, I mean, someone can be in government and running a private business at the same time. There should be clear laws really prohibiting that. So that's part of the problem why that boundary is blurred, because you got people serving government capacities and they stay actively involved in private enterprise. So it's called conflict of interest. So yeah, I mean, those are the kinds of changes that clearly will have to be made, because people can then use their government positions to basically, bring business to their own, their own private business. So I mean, that is one of the enduring problems that we also really got to think about and work on as we basically re-engineer our institutions and our processes.
Jerome Gilman said, are you giving President Tubbo high marks because you live in his era? I don't know. You live in Doe era too, so but go ahead.
Well, I live in his era, but don't forget I was one of his strongest opponents as well. I mean, President Tubbo sent me to prison in 1979 after the April 14 uprising. So if there for any reason, then I should really be better against it. But I believe as Liberians we got to be objective. I mean, I'm going by the evidence. Basically, it's not because I live in his era. I will even make the argument that he was the best president in my lifetime.
Admiral K. Salif said, can Professor Kieh please talk about Liberia's international outlooks towards inward development in terms of creditworthiness, export, earnings, debt to GDP per capita ratio, interactions with the Bretton Woods Institute, etc., or even impact of geopolitics?
Well, let's take debt first. When President Salif became president, there was a lot of international goodwill, and one of the major demonstrations of that international goodwill was that all of Liberia's debt that was owed to the Bretton Woods institutions, to various developed countries of the U.S., all that debt was forgiven. I think it was around about $3 billion. But when she left office, she left us in debt again as well. She didn't leave us debt free. So yeah, the debt got waived, but then, President Salif accumulated more debt, and that debt has been building again. So, we still remain an indebted country, maybe not as high as others, but, we still got a good bit of external debt. I mean, on the question of the GDP, as you know, is really based on economic productivity. So we got to be able to generate, enhance the productive capacity of the country in order to, to enhance the GDP. And I would say again, even if we had a high GDP the bottom line for me is really how we harness our economic resources to give our children world-class education, give our people clean drinking water, give them clean sanitation, give them health care, decent place to live, a job, enable them to put food on their table, good roads, good communication, and whatnot. That's the bottom. For me, that's the bottom line. So, if high GDP leads to that, that is fine. If it doesn't, that for me is meaningless.
Janka Kieh, or is it Klay? You say, Dr. Kieh, what in your observation is problematic about having external drivers of socio-economic development per your description of President Salih's Vision 2030? Could external drivers not be made contemporary to our specific Liberian institution, that is transferable knowledge?
Well, that's another good question. I mean, one problem for me is that the external bodies don't know our local realities. Number one. And number two, any development that is meaningful and sustainable has to be internally driven. The people who live in the country gotta be the drivers of their own development. The IMF and the World Bank, I mean, why should they be interested in Liberia? I mean, that would be and they're not. They have a particular agenda, and that agenda is not the advancement of the material well-being of the Liberian people. So if we make them the drivers of our development orientation, we're not going to get the kind of results that we basically need. So Liberians need to be the stakeholders, the drivers of their own development processes. I have no problem with external assistance, but the external assistance basically has to be processed through what Liberians determine their development agenda is.
Hamilton Zilli, he says, sir, what should be the focus of development? Should it be GDP or people's well-being? In other words, should it focus on the people or the economy? I don't know how Hamilton differentiates the people and the economy, but Dr. Kieh, go ahead.
Well, I see development basically as the people's material well-being. Development for me has to answer the following questions. Education, healthcare, jobs, economic equality, clean drinking water, sanitation, good roads, good communication system, decent housing for ordinary Liberians who cannot afford it, good public transportation. So for me, those will be all the indicators, all the markers or variables I will use in measuring development. All those variables to his question are all linked to the material well-being of the Liberian people or of any group of people.
Emmanuel Johnson said, will you say the principal reason all these governments did not succeed implementing their development program, misinterpretation of the rule of law, especially in cases of audit reports where officials were unethical and warrant persecution, but never ever faced justice for their corrupt behaviors in the government?
Oh yeah, I mean, corruption is a major barrier to development, there's no doubt. I mean, corruption is a major barrier to development in Liberia, and the fact, as Emmanuel has correctly described, that we don't really have the enforcement of the rule of law, and we don't have that enforcement of the rule of law because we have the culture of impunity. If you are economically well off and politically well connected, you can commit economic and other crimes and get away with it. So that's the problem. So depending on your connections, you can steal as much money from Liberia as possible. Nothing will happen to you. But if you don't have the appropriate connection, then of course they will talk about taking you to court.
Admiral K. Salif said, in all fairness to President Salif, development happens in context. Her people often argue that she took over the country when it was branded a failed or pariah state. She had to extricate us from war to wealth. So is that a fair assessment that, hey, she inherited a failed state?
Well, that is true. But she had 12 years. And don't forget President Salif, in fact, depending on what kind of estimates that you accept, the estimates that range from anywhere from $3 billion to $9 billion, or for even say $16 billion in development assistance. So the question there has to be, I mean, what happened to all of that money? Yeah, I mean, the premise is correct. She inherited a war-torn country. It takes a while to build that. We're talking 12 years.
Yeah.
So she was president for 12 years. We still don't have electricity. That's why the tragedy that Dennis just talked about, that's why that tragedy happened. If the country's whole electrical need is dependent upon people running private generators, that's the tragedies we're going to have. And we had 12 years. We got plenty of water in Liberia. Hydropower is one of the cheapest, as the experts say. Why during the 12 years we couldn't build a new hydro to supply electricity to our country? Why don't know 12 years we could not develop clean drinking, running water? Yes, she just did those two. So we have gone almost 30 years as a country without electricity. So that's what the tragedy that happened in Liberia today will unfortunately continue to happen.
And Devja is saying Salif did not respect Liberians. She viewed them as heathens incapable of governing themselves. I don't know you agree with that.
Premise. I said that premise. I mean, this strong belief that people on the outside know better about Liberia than Liberians themselves, and they have the interest of Liberia have better than Liberians themselves. It's a tragedy, and he's right. It's a tragedy. 12 years it hasn't gotten us anywhere.
Kona Yeboah say happy birthday. I think it meant pre-birthday, Comrade Professor George Klay. It is a shame that the Liberian government over time refused to make use of your expertise simply because of selfish, politically driven reasons. This is from your academic and political disciple, Comrade Amos Konu from Norway.
Thank you, Comrade Konos. I appreciate it. We all gotta keep, we can't take umbrage when particular governments in power in Liberia refuse to use our expertise, as unfortunate as that is. But, some of us remain committed to our country. And as I've always said, it's not where we are that matters. I mean, you can live in Norway, you can live in Australia, you can be in Liberia, you can be in the US. Wherever you are, it's not where you are that matters. It's what you do for Liberia where you are that ultimately matters. So, we'll continue to do, what we can for our country, because that is more important. The development of our country is just a non-negotiable issue.
Yeah. And we are unapologetic about what we say in favor of the development of our country. That's the only place we have. The GoFundMe link of the family that had this tragedy has been posted. Please click on that link and give the little that you can to identify with the people. I personally know the family here. I know the daughter. She came here maybe around 10 or 12 years old now. She's married with kids, and she was just hoping to go back home and see her mom. And then to really say, okay, I'm a grown woman now, and see what has happened. We see,
unfortunate. So yeah. Such a tragedy.
So if you can, please identify with the family. Your little $5, $10, $100, $500. That's indispensable in having the family to take care of, defray all the costs associated with this tragic incident.
Such a tragedy.
Yeah, we will continue with our comments here. Let's get a few more comments and we can call it a day. Hamilton Zilli, Dr. Kieh, don't you think Liberia needs a comprehensive development paradigm for Liberia? If so, what are those key factors that encompass this comprehensive development paradigm?
Well, I mean, I agree. I mean, we can have a comprehensive development paradigm that includes a development mindset, a development ideology, the key institutions, the projects we want to invest in, the methods by which we fund those projects, monitoring, assessment, all of that stuff. I mean, those will be the things that will go into, in my mind, to a comprehensive development paradigm. But as you know very well, paradigm is a set of ideas, and so we can have the best development paradigm if we are unwilling to implement that paradigm because we are not fundamentally committed to the welfare of our country beyond our own narrow self-interest. Well, it doesn't matter what that development paradigm is.
Let me read the last two comments and then we can get your pattern statement. Devja, the creation of a functional economic and financial system based on accountability is the foundation. Frida Stewart Allen, really sad that our government would not use the expertise of Liberians who have the knowledge and expertise to move Liberia in the right direction. And Dave again says, Salif did not take Liberia from complete war environment, though. There were relative peace and stability in Liberia when she took over. So let's stop pretending that Salif took Liberia from hell. There was also peacekeeping force. Dr. Kieh, thank you so much. I want to thank Dave and Freedom Admin and the rest of those commenting. Your comments are always welcome. We appreciate your participation in these discussions. Thank you very much for being here with us and spending your evening with us. Jimmy Isma always writing questions late. Jimmy, this is unacceptable. Jimmy is saying, hello, Dr. Kieh. Given your extensive background in the vanguard of the struggle, what would you recommend for the new Liberia? Are you still holding on to your previous philosophies? Dr. Kieh, you can wrap that up in your closing remarks.
Okay, well, again, Dennis, thank you so much to you and your colleagues for the invitation. I've benefited and from the conversation over these last 3 days. I've learned a lot. You and your colleagues are doing our country a great service by providing this platform for this kind of a discussion. And let me say to all of those Liberians who are listening around the world, that we should not be divided by whatever the cleavages are, particularly cleavages that we have no control over. Whether our forebears came from the United States as repatriated Africans, or whether they came from the collapse of African kingdoms, or whether they came from the Caribbean, or whether they were recaptures on the sea, or whether they came from other African countries, we are all Liberians. We are there. We have no control over what ethnic or whatever group we belong to. In fact, all of that should really be immaterial. The new Liberians must judge and evaluate people on the basis of what Dr. King said is the content of their character. We should focus on what Liberians can contribute and not what ethnic group or political party or whatever they come from. Those things should be immaterial. Yes, political parties and other forums provide opportunity for us to engage in rigorous debates, but those debates must always be first and foremost about how we advance the interests of our people. We need a new mindset in the new Liberia if our country is to move forward. We must put Liberia first, above self. So we are there. Our forebears were there. Our neighbor strings are there. So irrespective of which side of the Liberia culture mosaic we come from, we have one major destiny that ties all of us together. And so irrespective of where we are, whether at home or in the Liberian diaspora, we either work together in making our country a better place, or all of us collectively will collapse. And the shame of Liberia is a shame for all Liberians, irrespective of where we are.
How can I say anything else on top of what you've just said? I would say thank you, good night, and God bless you. We end with our closing song, which was very evident in Dr. Kieh's closing remark, that says, no matter how you came, whether you were on like the Kieh, you got on the boat, or like the Kieh and the Vi, you came by land, or like the settlers, you came from ship directly from the US, or you were recaptured in the Congo Basin. We are all Liberians. That's the message. Good night, folks.
We are Liberians.